Today, we're going to do something a little different. Welcome to our Airstream kitchen. I'm going to share with you how I make coffee when we're traveling in our Airstream on the road. Now, this method will not work well for many of you, and let me explain why. I use something called a Moka pot. This is a design that harkens back to the 1930s. I believe it was originally invented in Italy in 1933. So this is the old school method of making coffee. Why do I use a Moka pot? First of all, you don't need electricity. So I make coffee every morning on our propane stove. And that's really nice for us when we're boondocking. Quite often we don't have the luxury of an electrical hookup. So I like to be able to just come out, flip on the stove, and make my coffee without having to go outside and kick on the generator or worry about that sort of thing. Secondly, I'm usually making coffee for myself. My wife is not a big coffee drinker. She will occasionally have a cup, but the point is I really just need to make small quantities of coffee. So this method has a couple of advantages. I want to show you what a Moka pot looks like. I have a stainless steel model. The originals were made of aluminum, and this is just a little bit of an upgrade because in addition to being constructed of stainless steel, which does not impart any metallic elements into the coffee itself, it's also equipped with a silicone handle, which is heat resistant. They say you're not Italian if you've never melted a handle of one of the old school Moka pots on your stove, because the old handles are made of plastic. And yes, I have melted Moka pot handle on our propane stove, so maybe I'm part Italian. So this is actually kind of an ingenious device for making coffee. It consists of three parts. The bottom part is the water chamber, which you might have guessed from the name is where we put our filtered water. And I usually fill up the water chamber just below this little valve inside the water chamber. That's just what's recommended. If you overfill it, you'll end up soaking the coffee grinds, and you don't really get more coffee or that much more coffee out of it, so it's kind of pointless. Above the water chamber goes the filter basket. Note that the Moka pot does not require paper filters or any kind of plastic cups, UK cup people. So it's really actually quite good for the environment because you don't need any of those kind of disposables to make coffee. Now, for my choice of coffee, I really like these Lavazza coffees because I think it's quality Italian coffee brand. They have a wide variety of coffees that you can choose from, and it's not terribly expensive. In fact, if you buy it through Amazon, you can get this stuff at a very reasonable price. You true coffee snobs might want to get Illy coffee, but this stuff is like more expensive than plutonium. So I rarely indulge in Illy. Lavazza is my go-to brand for daily drinking coffee. I like this cafe espresso. In fact, if you look on the side of the can, you will see it says it's ideal for Moka pots. They even have a little Moka pot on the can. So now that we've got water in our Moka pot and the filter basket there, we're going to top it off with some espresso. You just do this to taste. They say you should not tamp it down, although it's very tempting to tamp it down if you're used to dealing with espresso makers. They say, whoever they are, that you'll get better results if you don't tamp it down. So now we've got our water and our coffee in our little Moka pot. We put on the top portion of the pot and screw it together like so. And if we look inside, you'll see there's a long tube. And what we're going to do is heat up the water until it reaches the boiling point. And then as the water boils, it rises and pushes through the coffee and spews out the hot coffee inside this chamber. And then we'll be done. Now, is this true espresso? The espresso snobs would say no, because the pressure inside this pot does not reach 9 bar of pressure. For those of you who run around measuring pressure inside espresso pots, it gets to more like around the 2 level. But it's good enough for me. It's good enough for most of Europe. This is technically the most successful coffee maker in the world. I'm just saying the Moka pot design. So a lot of people really like the type of coffee it produces. So now we've got everything assembled, I'm going to click on our propane, light it, and now we wait. And I usually dial down the flames just a bit, because the problem you'll have is if your flames are too wide, you're going to get the handle hot, and that's not a good thing, especially if you have one of the old school Moka pots that has the plastic handle. That can lead to some pretty unpleasant situations on your kitchen stove. You're supposed to heat it over low to medium heat. Really, they say low, and you just wait at this point. Some people say you can leave the lid open on the top, and so you'll see when the coffee is coming out. I think that's going to lead to coffee splattering all over your kitchen. So I usually close the lid and just listen. It's not really difficult to figure out when the coffee is brewed. So we're just going to wait a few minutes, and we'll show you what happens next. Now, to state the obvious, when you're done brewing the coffee, the metal is very, very hot. You got to be careful not to touch it. That's why I like the models with the silicone handle, because the silicone is cool. So let's take a look inside at our brewed espresso. Now, this is why I say this method would not be ideal for everyone. First of all, I'm making small batches, and it's a concentrated stuff. It is an espresso in my eyes, and when it comes out, it's really, really hot. You're going to want to let it cool for a bit before you drink it. It's very concentrated. This will give you a kick in the pants in the morning. Sometimes I might add a little bit of water and make it sort of an Americano. But I love this method of making coffee. If you like espresso, then this is a great way to go. And if you like traditional American drip style coffee, then you might not like this. One thing to bear in mind, this is considered a 6-cup coffee maker. 6 cups really means 6 little espresso cups. I mean, if you look at the quantity of coffee, that is not what Americans would consider 6 cups of coffee. In fact, it's more like 1 cup of coffee. Now, there's one more thing to consider with the Moka pot, and that is cleanup. Unfortunately, it's not quite as simple as some other styles of coffee maker, because there is no paper filter, there is no K-cup. So to clean it up, really what we got to do is get the spent coffee grounds out of the basket. And you can see there's a little bit of water down in the water chamber that didn't get pressed through, but that's not any big deal. So I'll put that into our sink, in our gray water tank, but the coffee grounds themselves are going to go in the trash. And this is where it's slightly messy. I mean, if you're boondocking, you're probably going to have to use just a dash of water to rinse off your hands and, you know, clear out the basket. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I'll do like so. And there, we're ready to make another cup of coffee. So that is the Moka pot. For me, I've been making coffee this way for years. I like the coffee it produces. I think it's a high quality espresso. It's got a small footprint, doesn't take up a lot of space on your countertop, travels very well, fits in our overhead storage compartment in our Airstream. So that's why I like it. It's sort of simple, it's old school, and it makes great coffee. And it's been sufficient for my needs for many years. So that's the Moka pot. Great way to make coffee when you're camping.
If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. If you disliked it, give it a thumbs down. Feel free to leave a comment. And of course, don't forget to subscribe.